Friends, as we are reading from this chakras, from this Anatomy of the Spirit book, so this is where it all comes. You see, the Carol and Mace have combined the three traditions, which are the Eastern chakras, the Christian sacraments, and the 10 sephiroths. The sephiroths are 10, but how she have analyzed or she have marked each and everything. This is what where we are combining these three traditions, and this is what we are observing. So today we are in this crown chakra, and the crown chakra where the Sephiroth is Keter. And this is the highest in the Sephiroth, and the sacrament is the extreme unction. So this is how I just wanted to show all the three traditions together. And now let us go to the presentation once again. So, yes, my dear friends. So today we are discussing about the seventh chakra, where this is our connection to our spiritual nature. Yeah. And this seventh chakra is our connection, once again, to our spiritual nature. And also, it is our capacity to allow our spirituality to become an integral part of our physical lives. This seventh chakra is directly aligned with cosmos, and it is also the warehouse for the energy. And the seventh chakra, this represents also our connection to the transcendent dimension of life. And where this is located, on the top of our head. And here, so far, I have always discussed about the physical body and the emotional body in the previous chakras. But here I have combined the physical and emotional body as the entry point is always the human life force. Even in the emotional body, it is the life force that is driving us. And this is the energy that generates, our thoughts, our transcendent ideas, and our mystical connections as well. And this life force also nourishes the body, the mind, and the spirit. And this contributes itself throughout the physical body and also the lower 6 chakras, and connecting the entire physical body to the 7th chakra. And this one, majorly, this energy influences the major body systems like the central nervous system, the muscular system, and also the skin. And now let us observe the symbolic connection. So now this contains the purest form of the energy or the prana, and it is the energy center for the spiritual insight, vision, and intuition far beyond the ordinary human consciousness. And that is consciousness like where we have entered today in our meditative states. And what are the usual fears that involved in this 7th chakra? So, for example, fears relating to spiritual issues such as the dark night of the soul, which we'll be discussing on Tuesday, friends, about the dark nights, or the fears of spiritual abandonment, the loss of identity or the loss of connection with life, and also the loss of connection with people around us. So these are the fears that exist in this chakra. And again, what are the strengths? We'll be having faith on ourselves. We'll completely trust ourselves and we'll follow our inner guidance, and our intuitive abilities increases tremendously. And we will be having insight into healing. That means we heal ourselves. And also a quality of trust enhances, and we devote to ourselves. We become one with ourselves. and we are no longer separated even with our higher self. And now we see the connection, as we already have seen in the picture, the Sephirot or the sacrament connections. We now see the Sephirot, which is Keter, and Keter also means crown. So the seventh chakra is obviously known as crown chakra. So it's the same. Keter also means crown, and this represents nothingness. So which means the energy from which physical manifestation begins. And it is thought to be eternal, where there is no end nor the beginning. And now the sacrament is extreme unction, which means like last rites, or the sacrament administered to the dying. You know what it represents also, the sacrament. So for example, if we have any sort of unfinished business, or if we have any regrets, we call all these patterns and we release these regrets, that continue to pull at one's consciousness, such as like words that might have been spoken but were not, or the words should not have been spoken, or even unfinished business would also include relationships that we wish we have ended differently, or the paths that we have wished we have taken but not. So these are also unfinished business, even the path that we thought of continuing but we didn't. So at the closure of our lives, we consciously draw these memories to a final point, accepting the choices we made at the time and releasing the feeling that things could have or should have been otherwise. Once again, friends, at the closure of our lives, we consciously draw all these memories to the final point and accept the choices we made and release the feelings that things could have or should have been otherwise. And this is what it means to call one's spirit back in order to leave this world and return to the spiritual dimension as a complete. At many points during our lives, we face a crossroads, like where we need a lot of previous phase of life called die. So the less we hold on to the physical world, the more we position ourselves to access consciously the energy of the Keter or the crown chakra. And this is where we connect ultimately with the highest truth form. So what is the sacred truth? So here the sacred truth ultimately is live in the present moment. Also, Mr. Eckhart, for example, wrote in a book, The Soul is One with God. That is the book name. And he mentioned that God is love, and he who is in love is in God, and God in him. And our Patriji has simply clarified this, that, we create our own reality and we are the gods. So we live in ourselves. There's nothing else. So in seeking union with the divine, we are always asking to have all the physical, psychological, and emotional illusions removed from our lives. And once this process of removal begins, we awaken an internal voice of authority that immediately begins to complete with every external authority in our lives. So this is all, my dear friends, for today. And in next week, we'll discuss about the spiritual crisis and how we ourselves will be wanted to devote to ourselves, and also how we will endure the dark nights in our lives. So this is all, my dear friends, for today. So welcome back, my dear friends. Today we'll again see about the seventh chakra, where we thought of knowing the spiritual crisis and the need for the devotion. So this is going to be the last chakra, and is also the last chapter from this entire book, Anatomy of the Spirit. So if anyone of you have missed my previous sessions, there is a playlist on YouTube. If you go to the Beam Meditation channel, and there are all the sessions have been recorded there. So thank you all, my dear friends, for the beautiful meditation as well. So let me go to the topic today. So usually, spiritual crisis more or less is identical to the psychological crisis, and is also like a beginning stage to understand all this crisis, because we never understand such terms like spiritual crisis, but there are three kind of symptoms, and let us see those one by one. Okay, where am I? Yeah. So, yes. So the first one is absence of meaning and also the purpose. So this crisis usually begins with an awareness that cannot be, that is not based on like external components of our lives. And will no longer hold attraction to the normal solutions. Rather, we'll be thinking very deeply, like what has happened, what is the meaning, what should be expected, something is not there, or you lack ambitions in your life. These all belongs in this symptom called absence of meaning. And the next one is, we'll be having like strange new fears. And this is the second one of a spiritual crisis. And these fears are not like the normal ones. Whereas like, it will be like abandonment, fear of abandonment with ourselves, or even aging. If you are getting aged, even this is like also a new fear for some people. And also we feel as if we are losing identity on ourselves, and or we no longer sure like who we are and what we want out of this life. All this represents in this strange new fears. And this is like usually normal also for every spiritual seeker in the beginning stage. Even for me, it is the normal even for now. And so these are the fears, these are the symptoms from the seventh chakra. And the third spiritual crisis, the symptom is like, devotion to oneself. So when I say devotion to oneself means like, meeting your higher self, and or connecting with your higher self, and also trusting yourself, believing in yourself. Somewhere or the other side, we just keep on thinking like there is more greater than ourselves, there is something more greater. But in terms, although there are, of course there are greater beings, but we are greater for ourselves first. That is what Caroline have been mentioning. And also we need to be in touch, remember this point, friends, we need to be in touch with a source of miracles and hope. Let me repeat once again. We need to be in touch with a source of miracles and hope. And devotion commits a part of our conscious minds to our unconscious eternal self. So even brief and these encounters with this presence and its infinite power help our conscious mind release its fears of life, and human power ceases to command our attention. So all these three symptoms, indicate that a person have entered into the dark night. Yet when our root is very spiritual, then we'll overcome with this crisis. And you know how? The thing is, there is also, like, according to the Carolyn, there will be also spiritual director, and also a spiritual counseling person. So there should be someone, who investigates and also make an inner dialogue to ourselves related to the matters of spirit. How these questions have to be, for example, what questions have you asked that seek insight into your life's purpose? First of all, have we ever questioned to ourselves of what is our life purpose? And what fears do you have related to your understanding of God? So when it means God, understanding of yourself. And in some questions, I have also rephrased, when it is God, I just have mentioned ourselves. So have you judged your life as meaningless when you evaluate it within a spiritual context? And what spiritual fantasies do you have? Do you have faith in yourself? These are the questions that we have to really ask. And please try to write it down, the answers. So when we try to write it down, these answers, as Carolyn have mentioned, these are not the normal psychological questions. So we become more and more open to receiving the answers by reorganizing our lives in a way that we remove first the mental and emotional blockages. So when we write these answers, slowly and slowly, we know the purpose of our life and we remove these blockages. And that reorganization will at first make us feel worse, as we feel like, we have entered this dark night stage, or the suffering, or the spiritual crisis state. But through this, we also come to know how the content of our mind and heart confronts the fears and beliefs, and consciously pursues the shadow side and challenges. So this is what, my dear friends. Then Carolyn have mentioned a story here. Let us think, like, for example, there was a guy where his career was very high, and that career brought him great financial success. And so he traveled around the world, and he became the powerful business acumen, and he was enjoying his social life completely. So what happened is that suddenly this guy was diagnosed with HIV positive. And after this diagnosis, again, he lost his mother. So the combination of these two traumatic events have made this person, go into despair and depression. And after that, he just lost, he do not wanted to show the ugly side of his, that he was in depression, or rather he was not unable to concentrate. And slowly he find that there is no purpose in his life. And slowly his energy is going out, because it's not so easy if someone is having a disease and at the same time there is also a loss in the family. But at the same time, he has his work commitments and he need to get away and he need to work, and unable to concentrate on this, he just went away for a while. And he where he have been to, he just went to his mother's home. So again, instead of being alone in that home, he started to work by himself, like just doing some household works, and then at the same time he have got some loads of spiritual materials there. So, and then slowly he started to read, he started to meditate, and slowly he started to change the eating habits. He became very strict to himself, in the sense, like, with strict disciplined way of doing the meditation, and bringing, he was very much dedicated to bring the change in his lifestyle. And this is where then keeping his practice, this is where he understood that he has to be in the present moment all the time. And he did this consciously. And doing this consciously, he could get rid of himself of all the unfinished business. And during his meditations, he began to experience this transcendental state, the complete bliss state, consciously. At first, he had no idea of what was happening to him, but then slowly the sensations slowly have unfolded him in the path. So this is how he thought like he was living eternally there. And this is how it has to be, my dear friends. We'll be having, and he was very grateful for the virus that he had, which is the HIV, and he just thanked because it brought lot and lots of change spiritually in his life, and he was living more fully alive each day than the day before. And he felt also a connection to the place that is more real. So this is what one example, friends. We all will enter into the spiritual crisis at one point of the time, and we all have the fears, and it all depends on how we start working out on ourselves, how we are dealing with ourselves, how patient we are also with ourselves. So this is all what it is. And at the same time, be open for the changes, and be strictly disciplined, and do meditation. Now, as even for 10 minutes, even if you do 1 minute, just do it. Just sit silent. Our goal, is to have, we have to connect with our inner spirit. We need to identify the power of ourselves, and we are responsible for what we create. And we must then learn to act and also think with love and wisdom, and also live in service to others and all of the life creatures. And then there are several more questions as well, friends. So seventh chapter is more of an exercise for all of us. So let us all do this exercise rigorously. So these are one more questions which we have to ask us. And so since all the 7 chakras are completed, I'll just share as a PDF all these questions from all the 7 chakras, and let us try to write it down, at least one answer per day, or even one answer in a week. But just slowly start working on yourself, and we ourselves will know what is happening in ourselves. So there is no need of someone to judge or to even guide. Rather, we are the ones who can guide us inwardly, and we can heal ourselves. So this is all what, my dear friends, for the topic of today. And the next week, we'll discuss about the final conclusion, where we'll see one set a glance of all the chakras.